Hello and welcome, I'm Cheesy Zealot, and I cast cheese games, cheese, every day, all the time. Starting in the left side over here as the blue Protoss, that's me on the left, and I'm going to go ahead and ask my opponent if they mind if I cheese like I do almost every game I can to check in and see if that's something that they're okay with, and we'll see what our red Terran in the bottom right side, Death, decides to do about it. And, he doesn't really care, but that's good for him because I'm a fan of people who can just kind of roll with the flow and are pretty just confident in their gameplay that they don't really need to worry about cheese all the time. So generally, my starting when I'm playing on three-player maps is I send out two probes in the early game to try and scout out, see where anybody is. I check out one base, realize there's no Terrans there, so I know he's at the next base. I start heading both probes over that way to start harassing workers and getting my cheese on. At this point, I know that I haven't gotten to his base quickly enough to start building workers, so I have to build a pylon at home so as to build my tech structures and make sure that I can keep the harass up. My probe does realize it's too late to harass that supply depot and that SCV building supply depot, so he decides to run around the base and just keep a little bit of scouting going on and not letting the Terran know that anything's up, really. At this point, he knows he's being chased down by an SCV, but he's not too concerned because back at home I've already started building a forge and pylon, so I don't normally need to do tech structures close to Terran bases. Sometimes I do because it works for some funds and some laws a little bit later, but it's a little bit more difficult to go unseen at Terran bases just because of their tendency to build their buildings closer out and further away from their base. But as my forge starts to finish up, I've gone ahead and I've tossed an assimilator up on the high ground, both to kind of annoy him and keep him from building his own assimilator on that side, but also because I like the vision. The vision always helps if I end up building cannons on the low ground and kind of spreading them towards the other side. It does help me quite a bit. Unfortunately for me, he built his barracks a little bit further back, so I didn't have the opportunity to place a pylon in this portion, or even just leave a probe there to prevent him from building any Marines. And he notices now that that I actually do have some photon cannons coming up, and even though I'm harassing him as he's trying to build this second base, he starts to realize that there's some other things afoot. Probably a little later than you'd expect, given that I told him I was going to cheese. But in addition to the probe that I have running around here distracting his marine, I've also already started to put up some photon cannons and pylons up in the side over by supply depot, which is immovable. And the portion actually that I like quite a bit is that it can't move around, and I don't really have to worry about it moving away and floating away and not being able to be destroyed. So that's one thing I do like about it. With one probe still left on the map, I do go ahead and start, or one probe on the left on the map on the Death side of the map, I do go ahead and start powering some more photon cannons out as I'm destroying this supply depot. And as you can see, that supply depot destruction actually does quite a bit of damage because he has to build two more supply depots just to catch back up with the normal. And even though I have to run away my probe, it still gives my photon cannons quite a bit of time to go ahead and finish up. And a little bit earlier, I decided, you know what, that probe's not going to last too much longer. I'm going to go ahead and need to actually send some more probes over to keep up the cheese going on. And luckily for me, I get them there in time to start building up a few more cannons and just some more cheese at this moment. And even though he can continue repairing that bunker, my cannon can continue killing off SUVs and making itself a little bit worthwhile. And while that cannon works its way down with that bunker, I go ahead and continue my harass with two more photon cannons on the high ground. One of them does eventually get destroyed, and I end up having to. I don't know if I actually canceled it there at the last second, but I should have if I didn't. I may have not canceled both of them, which is probably a big mistake at this point in time, but this is where his largest mistake occurs, and he actually spends some time focusing down my assimilator instead of going for the massive 3-cannon, 1-pylon construction that I have going on underneath his base. I think about this time when he starts microing his marine to take out one of my probes, he realizes that it is not going too great for him. Even though my probe goes down, I realize that having 3 cannons in his supply chain is almost going to be impossible for him. So while my 3 cannons just make their best work over on that orbital command, I go ahead and continue sending some probes in because they realize, you know what, I've got him in a corner, I know he's running away, it's going to be hard for him to get out of there. and I might as well go ahead and continue the cheese. On his way out, I do manage to snipe a SCV or two and see the direction that he's going. I think I notice the direction with this probe and see those SCVs running away, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and follow it. I bet he's going to move his base right to this spot right here, so I'm going ahead and I toss the pylon down because I think that's where his base is at. When I realize that it's not there, I go ahead and cancel it and send my probes a little bit further out because I realize that the only other place that makes sense for him to continue is over in this right side over here. And because I know that it's almost undoubtable that he's right there or he's going to lose way too much mining time, I go ahead and leave a pylon on the high ground and start building that up while I scout his base with my probe. I think either I or he ends up destroying his own SCV with a little misclicks there, and this one Marine decides that he really wants my probe for lunch. So I continue just kind of moving around and annoying him so that he doesn't notice that there's a photon cannon over there building on the high ground. And you might be saying, why at this point didn't I just start building standard and start trying to take care of him that way? That's a good question. I probably could have done that, especially with the fact that I already have a gateway and another gateway on the way and two simulators that I'm not really using at this point. But I like to try and cheese as the cheesy zealot and El Bandito, so I figure it's probably in my reputation to go ahead and do that. I also noticed that there's still a few Marines in this bunker, so I think I'm probably going to have to keep my eye on that going forward. And as he starts to realize that he is indeed being cheesed for a second time, he starts trying to take down my photon cannon, which, despite his quick effort, doesn't take too much damage. At this point, I do have enough of a range from that pylon on the high ground that I toss down two more photon cannons that do have enough health to at least last for a little bit, long enough for me to kill off one of those Marines. And I additionally start sending the Zealot in to go ahead and fight him off. While Death does have quite a bit of minerals at the moment, he's throwing down a new command center and trying to reestablish another base somewhere else so that I can't do much to him. But at this point I know, you know what, he's only got a few SCVs, I can just harass that mineral line and I'm going to be taking him down quite a bit. And this Zealot just really does its job, hanging out by the mineral line and hitting SCVs until he's forced to just retreat from the mineral line, and he realizes he has to send out his Marines to go ahead and take that out. I do go ahead and toss down an expansion because I think I've got him on the run, and he is continuing to build up his own expansion up in that top left. I managed to micro back my Zealot over to the behind the cannon wall that I've already kind of set up as a contain, with this forward cannon protecting my right ramp and this other cannon protecting my left ramp, with quite a difficult kind of walk around to get behind me and do any real damage. But at this point he realizes that he needs to kind of stick it out at his base and start building up some forces. I also do start sending out a probe to toss pylons down. I like to toss pylons down at the expansions when I have a few extra minerals, because I know that that's something that cheese players sometimes do. They toss down a few extra buildings over, hiding some mineral patches, and they try and get away with it. That's something that's smart, makes sense to do if I'm concentrating on cannoning him and making stalkers and zealots at his weird kind of expansion. Then it makes sense for him to try and toss one else down elsewhere. But even so, I managed to just go ahead and toss his cannon down and this probe down. Over at his now, what appears to be, I guess, a main base, I'm managing to pull some stalkers out and harass quite a bit of Marines and Marauders with this two-stalker combo. Because of their just agility, they're able to go back and forth and pick off Marines, and even to really start in a little bit start numbing their way down on that Marauder if he comes out. He also has this kind of floating command center here because there's no real great place for him to go with it. He can't go here, and he knows that going over here is going to take him a little while. Eventually he does that because, I mean, what other options does he really have? He's floating a ton of minerals, so he should be kind of spending this as quickly as he can, but surprisingly he's just getting quite a few more SCVs out and not building kind of the production facilities he needs, or even just the straight up Marines he could build off those two barracks. And even this other barracks here, he could be producing a little bit more, but he's really just focused, I think, on his on his base here and trying to get it reestablished and defended, but he isn't building enough to really manage that. I also do find this extended base over here on the top side now over to the right a little bit more now that he's moved it with my one stalker and started attacking it. And close to this time, he's starting to realize that it's going to be a bit difficult for me to, or for him to actually reestablish another base at an alternate location without losing almost all of his SCVs and most of his production facilities or anything else along those lines. This stalker continues just poking away at the other base that's been established over there, and he thinks, you know, maybe I have a chance over here, but with my new warp-in of 2 zealots and 2 stalkers, I start eating away additionally at his supply depots, and at this point he realizes he doesn't have too much of a choice, and he leaves the game in defeat. So thanks for watching, guys, and if you need more cheese and need some antidotes or some choices for it, then I encourage you to hit me up and either send videos to me or ask me questions. I'm open to either. I'm not entirely an expert. I play in about Gold League right now, close to Platinum, getting a little bit better, I think. So keep in touch, and I look forward to cheesing with you guys next time.